Okay, so we are recording. You are welcome to be on camera, but don't feel like you have to for any reason. Feel free as we go through to use the chat function. We'll have a little activity in just a minute in the chat function. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the second Wheels of Welcome call. Hard to believe Unbound is going to be here in less than a month. How are folks feeling? Thumbs up, thumbs down, kind of somewhere in the middle? Nice. All right, I'm seeing a couple thumbs up, seeing a couple, oh, well, hopefully we can answer any questions that folks have. And I apologize that it looks like I've been crying. I haven't. I promise you, I'm having a really good day. My allergies are going crazy. So I look very bloodshot, but I promise you things are fine. So let's dive into things. Okay, so Wheels of Welcome. So tonight we're going to talk more about logistics of Emporia. We've got some times nailed down. We've got some more details. I am still waiting for a little bit of information, and we'll talk about that, but I'm a little surprised, like the rider guide hasn't come out yet, the routes haven't come out yet. And I'm genuinely surprised by that. I thought they would be out by now. So we'll talk through all of that and what that means. We'll spend a little bit more time talking about navigation. This is something that a couple folks brought up that they requested help on. We'll spend a bit of time talking about day of essentials, making sure that you feel really prepared for actual Saturday, June 1st. And then we'll spend a bit of time talking about what to do when things go wrong. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions, like I said. We will have a special guest joining us tonight. He's going to be about 15 minutes late, but I'll talk about him in just a second. So you all know me, I'm Marley, I'm an influencer, I'm an athlete, I'm an advocate, and I am your mentor for this program, and I'm super excited about it. For transparency, well, no, I guess it doesn't matter. I run a group called All Bodies on Bikes. You'll see us at Unbound. We will have a tent in the expo, and we're also leading a sensory-friendly shakeout ride. And so we're having a shakeout ride for this group, but we're also going to do a separate one that will be hopefully low stimulation. You won't be expected to talk to anybody. And so if that's more your vibe, you're welcome to join that one. And I'll talk about that in just a second. We're going to come back to Sean. So Sean is going to be our special guest. Last month we had Christy come on and talk to us. And this week we're going to have Sean Thurman, who is the new race director for Unbound Gravel. And so that'll be a great time to answer or to ask any questions specifically to him that I can't answer. But like I said, he's going to be a few minutes late. So as soon as he joins, I will bring him into the call. So just a reminder, some of the goals of the program. So goal number one is to cultivate an inclusive community. Going to these events can feel really overwhelming and like there's a million people there. And so my hope is that by doing this, you guys will meet some folks and have some friendly faces on the ground when we get to Emporia. And actually, you know what? I see that Sean has joined us right now. So I'm going to finish the slide and then we're going to pop back to Sean. My second goal for this program was to lower the barrier to entry. We all know how intimidating it can be. There's lots of questions, lots of things that you don't even know what you don't know when you're first getting started. So my hope is to lower that. And then 3 is to help educate and prepare everybody for success, whatever success means to you. For me, success for you is getting across that finish line and feeling good about your day. I don't care how much time you take. I don't care how many hills you walk, but I want everybody involved in this to cross that finish line if it's possible at all. And so with that, I'm actually gonna, let's see if I can go backwards. I'm gonna pass it over to Sean to introduce himself, and then we'll see if he's open to any Q&A as well. So Sean, take it away.
Hey all, yeah. So my name is Sean. I am the new race director for Unbound. And talking to Marley through this, I wanted to make sure that I hopped over here to kind of support you all. I want to be here to answer questions that you have. I want to be accessible for you. But I also think it's important to let you know that while a lot of the focus tends to be on the front of the fields, you guys matter. You guys matter to me. I appreciate you guys. I am there with you, and I appreciate your journey. I know every one of them is unique to you, and I have a ton of appreciation and respect for that. I think that that's something that maybe we don't hear enough or we don't say enough. But seeing you guys cross the finish line and being out there and being a part of this um, is equally as important to me as anyone else that's out there. So, um, one of the my biggest pet peeves is to hear people say, "Well, I'm only doing the 25," or "I'm only doing the 50." You're not. You're doing the 25, and it's hard. It's as hard as it is for you. Um, so don't shy away from that. Make it your journey. Embrace it, live it, and know that I'm accessible for you. Um, and I am totally open to questions. I have some feedback for you guys to help you on your journey with just tidbits of information on what you're going to see on some of the courses. But yeah, if you guys have questions keyed up, I'm happy to answer what I can.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get into that. So I've got two questions to start out, and then if folks either want to come off mute and raise their hands, I'll do my best to call on people or just jump in. So Sean, question number one is when are the courses coming out?
So um, probably Friday. Initially, we shot for tomorrow. We've got a couple of things that we're still finalizing. Um, I think while everyone wants to see them, I want to make sure that everything is right that's associated with them. So we're taking an extra day, and we're going to make sure that they're right, and I think they will be released completely on Friday.
Awesome. And then my second question is when will the rider guide be coming out?
The same time.
Okay.
So that's part of what we're putting together. We want to make sure that both of those come out at the same time. Um, so you don't have a day or two to look at the course and not have the information. We want to make sure that you get all of that at the same time.
Awesome. Anything you want to tell us about the 25 and the 50-mile course that you're willing to share?
Sure. It's I don't think either one of them are necessarily 25 and 50 specific. I think it's very athlete and North Course specific. So, you hear the war stories of the mud and everything when we go south. Um, well, something to think about when you go north is we will probably not have to deal with mud, but the variables are going to be the heat and the wind. Um, you're super exposed, as you are some on the south course as well. I think for some reason the north course feels hotter. Um, and then that time of the year in June, we are likely to have winds out of the south. So you're going to start your day, feeling great with a tailwind for the first half of it. And then you're going to get to Americus, and for the 25, you're going to turn around and it's going to be immediate that you feel the headwind. So I think it's important, to think about pacing, and even though you're feeling like, going super fast on the way out, like, keep your pacing in mind. Same thing for the 50 milers. You're going to come to Americus. You've got a little loop kind of built in off of that, and then you'll start heading back to the finish into that headwind. So water, pack more than you think you'll need. Um, you know, most of the course, um, as you stay closer to Emporia, you're not going to get into like the really nasty flint rock sections. But it's not impossible to get a flat. Those are kind of part of it. So, one of the things that I like to tell everyone is to, you know, pick durable tires over what someone is going to tell you is fast. Um, prioritize durability, and then a key thing to learn is plugging a tire. It's pretty easy to do once somebody shows you how, but it is a skill that I would want to have going out on these courses.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions from other folks on the call. Don't be shy. Yeah, Michael.
Actually, I have three questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay. First question is when will Shakeout Ride information be published?
That should come out either with the athlete guide or shortly after. It may come out a little bit later. We have a pretty good idea of when everything is happening, and where, and it is a full schedule. So you will have no shortage of opportunities.
Question number 2 is, after the previous Zoom meeting, there was a lot of confusion that I had to sort out an email about the Kansas City Jeep Club and emergency pickups for people on 25 and 50. Could you tell us what the reality is as you understand it now?
So my understanding is the Jeep Club is servicing both the 25 and 50. So as that information becomes available and we have that phone number, and I think that's part of the piece that's going in the athlete guide, if not shortly after. But previously we've not had the Jeep Club on the 25 and 50. So that will be something that is serviced this year. So it'll be a phone number.
And my third question is, my understanding is, and please correct me if my understanding is wrong, because it might be, that the start times for the 50 and the 25 have been pushed to later, but the cutoff points for those rides has not been pushed back later?
So I'm pretty sure you don't have cutoffs for the 25 or 50 because both of those distances will fall within the cutoff times of like the 100 and 200. So I don't believe that we have any posted cutoff times for the 25 or the 50.
Said I might be mistaken. So most people were concerned about the heat starting later, but it's Kansas in June. It'll be hot, so whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be. And we did, some of the starts did get pushed back, mainly due to some traffic control pieces and trying to get groups of people out across one of our highway crossings. So, some of those decisions do have, an effect as they get pushed back. Some of them are out of our hands, but we try to keep into account everyone and not just, the front two fields. So we do realize that it's getting pushed back a little bit, but we didn't have a whole lot of option.
Yeah, I believe the 50 starts at 9 a.m. and the 25 starts at 9:30.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
This issue is like how much time we stand waiting around if we want to show up to watch the people riding 200 take off, and then we have hours before we get to go. So.
Yeah, but we'll all be there, and we'll all be there together, and we'll have fun. We can drink coffee and
Eat a second breakfast and hang out.
absolutely, yeah. The coffee shop's great. I spend a lot of time there.
Somebody just asked, will parking be an issue for those of us starting later in the morning, the 25 and the 50? Yes.
The short answer is yes.
Yeah.
Probably all week long.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast, right? It's we have almost 5,000 athletes coming to Emporia. In addition to those 5,000 athletes, a lot of them bring family members, kids, crew, whatever that is. Our impact to that region is almost 9,000 people in Emporia starting on like that Monday. So, while it's incredible to think about, it does have its issues. So yes, parking is going to be an issue the entire week.
Yeah. I will say though, having been there, this will be my 4th year going out there. I've always been able to find parking around town somewhere, and you'll have your bike. So even if you have to park at the university or a mile or so away, it's never been a horrendous issue. And there's lots of street parking and side streets and that sort of thing. So
there's probably a lot of opportunity once the 200-mile riders go with like crews, them leaving downtown to get out to the checkpoints. So you may have more availability then, but I think I would just plan to have parking issues and embrace it.
Last year I did 5, and that was definitely the case. When we pulled in, there was plenty of parking because the 200 and the 100, all their crews had left. And so the places that they parked, which were generally the really good spots, were all opened up.
Oh yeah, because they get there like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
They're there when I get there.
We had another question come in via chat. Do I need to seriously be concerned about tornadoes, from a California girl? Yes and no. I mean, the weather's going to do what it wants to do. I'll let Sean weigh in, and then I've got something else to add.
Yeah, it's while I can ask for there to not be tornadoes and for the the sun to stay up longer. I rarely get what I want when I ask for those things. With tornadoes, I think that time of the year, like, we're pretty safe, but we also have, pretty good emergency services in place. We're working on a couple of messaging apps. So Track Central, I think, is going to be put in place this year where we can get messaging out. My Alerts is another weather app that we will be asking everyone to download. And you'll see all this when you come through for like packet pickup. We'll have QR codes. We'll make it very easy. But you will get weather alerts for anytime you're in the region. So, given the nature of where we are in the region, we're tapped into the National Weather Service. Anything that's coming, we're going to know, as soon as they know. The National Weather Service has said if anything looks like it could potentially happen, then they're going to put somebody on the ground with us instead of working remote. So, we are tapped in as much as we can be tapped in. We'll get as much notification as we can get. But I would not let that impact, the journey you're about to go on.
Yeah. Last year and the year before that, I got caught in some pretty epic storms, and you just keep riding, unless you physically feel unsafe to ride, and then you try and find a place to take shelter. I've had to take shelter a couple times before, and then you just keep riding and it becomes part of your story. Question from Charles. They're camping at the fairgrounds. Is that walkable to downtown? I wouldn't say it's walkable, but it's bikeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's how far you want to walk, but
Yeah.
a little ways.
Yeah. A couple more minutes for questions and then we'll get back to the content. Thanks again for joining, Sean.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to mention to you all, my goal is to be completely accessible. If you see me on the street, don't hesitate to come up and ask a question. Don't hesitate to walk up and say hi. Like I am I am here for everyone on this call and everyone on the 25 mile and the 50 mile and the people watching. You know, I find it important to give everyone the experience they're looking for and be a part of that with them. So don't ever hesitate to come up and reach out and say hi.
And I can vouch, the entire Lifetime team is incredible. So they are staying in, Michelle says they're staying in the dorms. Do you know when they should expect to get details about it? Check-in times, facilities, etc.
So last I heard is they're looking to get all of that information out next Monday. There may be delays, but that was the last deliverable was Monday.
And I will be in the dorms with you. I'll have a good time. So, any other questions from folks? And if questions do come up, I have Sean's number and I can relay those on and get the information. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
thanks
reach
again for
out anytime.
joining.
Of course. You guys have a good one. Again, as Marley said, like if anything pops up, let me know. I'm happy to chat through anything.
Awesome. And you're welcome to stay on if you want to. Oh, looks like Charles has another question. If you want to come off mute, that
What
might
you got?
Oh, he's just waving. Never mind. He's just waving by.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Thanks, Sean. All right. Thanks everybody for that. Let's go ahead and keep going. So we went through the goals. So in the chat, some folks have already been doing this, but feel free to introduce yourself. Like I said, one of the goals of this is to create that inclusive community. So feel free to introduce who you are, where you're coming from, maybe one of your goals for Unbound, and maybe one thing you're unsure about. And if I start to see some trends in there, we can make sure that those things get addressed. So feel free to pop those things in whenever you get a chance. I'm gonna skip, I'll go through this slide really quickly. Is same one as last time. Community expectations. Remember, it all starts with respect. Sean mentioned this, I mentioned it, but my ride is gonna look different than Charles's ride. It's gonna look different from Carl's. It's gonna look different from Dee Dee's. Respect everybody else's ride because we all have different goals out there. There are no dumb questions. Y'all have been absolutely incredible about this, of doing your research and saying, hey, I think I'm doing this thing. What do you guys think about that? But this is your chance to ask those questions. And then just remember that all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, as long as they're safe, and all rides should be celebrated, and will be celebrated. We're not going to body shame each other, we're not going to body shame ourselves, and we're going to celebrate the heck out of our rides. Okay, so let's get into this. I was really, really hoping that the rider guide would be available. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit frustrated that it's not. We're less than a month out, but that's okay. Not much is gonna change between last year's rider guide and this year's rider guide. So if you're feeling a little bit anxious, want to get those details, go and read the 2023 rider guide. It has so much information in it, and it'll answer literally every single one of your questions. Okay, let's talk logistics. So it hasn't been announced yet, but our shakeout ride is going to be Friday at 1:30. I don't know where it starts yet. We'll find that out, but our shakeout ride will be Friday at 1:30. It'll be right around 10 miles. We will get to experience some of the gravel. And then we're gonna head back into Emporia for the happy hour. We'll just go straight to the happy hour. We'll have non-alcoholic beer there. I'm working on potentially getting some real beer as well, for those folks who like to indulge. And that'll be at Shimano Park. Shimano Park, if you go to Google it, it's not a real thing. It's only a thing that happens on Expo weekend. For those folks who have been to Emporia before, the Expo takes up like, 2 or 3 big streets, and Shimano, who is like one of the biggest sponsors, has a huge area basically in this like grassy knoll. I don't know how you say that word. In this grassy area, and it becomes Shimano Park. And so that's where there's shade, there's tables, places to sit, and it'll be a really great place for us to hang out after our shakeout ride. And then on Saturday, the start times are 9 o'clock for the 50 mile and 9:30 for the 25 mile. There's not a whole lot of time in between our shakeout ride and our ride the next day. So it's going to be really important that you hydrate, that you recover. If the 10 miles feels hard, we're not going to go super fast. But if that feels challenging to you, it is going to be an out and back. So I will welcome you to turn around at a distance that feels good to you. If a 5-mile ride is what's going to feel good to you, that is totally fine. You're all adults and you can make your own decisions there. Any questions on those logistics? I will send out emails reminding of this as well. Okay, let's move on to navigation. Anybody, well, I'm not even going to ask this because I know lots of folks are going to be like, yeah, I don't feel good about navigating. So as a reminder, the course is unmarked. I did my best to advocate that they should put out stakes or do something, and I got downvoted. If you guys remember last month, Christy said the reason why they don't mark the course is because the locals will go out and change it. And I have a hard time believing that, but that's okay. We're going to navigate ourselves and it's going to be just fine. So the big things here is you need to navigate, or excuse me, you need to download the course before you get to Unbound. Make sure it's loaded up onto either your phone or your bike computer before you leave your house. These settings can be a little finicky, especially when you're connecting to a new Wi-Fi. And so it's going to be best if you just do it all at your house. So the way that you're going to do it, and reach out to me if you have questions or trouble with this, because it can be a little challenging. But on Friday or whatever day they release the routes, you're going to find the route and you're going to click on it, and it's going to take you to Ride with GPS. When you get to Ride with GPS, if you already have an account, you're going to log in, and you're going to say save. When you hit save, it's going to basically pin it to your profile. And then if you've used Ride with GPS before, it'll sync automatically. You'll open up your bike computer and you'll say sync, and it'll bring it down. If you haven't done this before, this is where it gets a little bit challenging. You're going to click download for offline or send to device. They're basically the same thing. You're going to sync your device, and then when you turn on your bike computer, you'll find the route and you'll go. Couple things to note here. To download for offline use, you have to be a premium member. However, we have a code that'll give you 30 days free premium, and we're within that 30-day window right now. So, and I'll send you guys these slides afterwards, that way you can look at it. But basically, if you go to ridewithgps.com/access tokens _use, it's not the most user-friendly thing in the world, but you put in the token Marley24, that'll give you 30 days free, and you can download for offline use. And that way it'll be on your phone, and it can also be on your bike computer. The other option here is to print out like paper directions, which isn't a bad idea if you're really nervous about it. You go into Ride with GPS, and then it has like a print cue sheet. And that way it'll tell you, turn right at County Road 4, turn left at County Road J, or whatever it is. Ideally, you're not really gonna have to worry about this that much because you're gonna be in a group. But those of us that are slower or tend to be out in the back of the pack by ourselves, there have been times when there's been nobody around, and it's really important to navigate yourself. So my recommendation is to start practicing this now. Download some other routes, make sure you know how to access it on either your phone or your bike computer, and that you know where that's going to be mounted on your bike. So if you're doing your phone, do you have a way to mount your phone so you can look at it while you're riding? If you've got it on your bike computer, hopefully you've got the mount for your bike computer. But those are the things to be figuring out now. Other things people do is they'll put it in their headphones, and they'll have the audio announcement, which works really well. That way your phone doesn't have to be out, and it'll come up with those cues, and it'll say, in a quarter mile, turn right onto County Road 00 or whatever it might be. Any questions about navigation? Cool. I believe Ride with GPS is also going to be on site. If you have any questions, and Garmin will also be on site, and they can help you download your routes. Even if you have a Wahoo, if you take it over to the Garmin booth, they'll help you with that. So they've been really helpful in the past. Okay, switching topics. Let's talk about what to actually expect. So the night before, you're going to do all of your prep. Whether you're staying in the campground or a hotel or the dorms, I want you to lay out your kit. Everything from your jersey to your socks to your shoes, lay it all out. That way, God forbid, your alarm doesn't go off. You are ready to go in the morning. You're going to charge all of your devices. I recommend filling all of your bottles and your hydration packs the night before. That way, in the morning, literally all you have to do is get up, get dressed, and eat something. It's foolproof. You're ready to go. You're going to eat a good breakfast. Make sure it's a mix of high protein, carbohydrates. You're going to want to hydrate. And then because we are starting so late, I love to go down and watch the 200 and the 100s go off, which is like at 6 o'clock in the morning. It really feels fun. It feels exciting. It makes me feel like a part of the event. But that means I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and eating breakfast. So then by the time it's our turn to go out and ride, I will need to be eating a second breakfast. So packing, a breakfast burrito for your pocket, packing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, packing something that you can get into your belly before we actually go ride. And I tend to do this for regular rides too, not just event days. And then relax and visualize success. The night before can feel really exciting and really overwhelming. I always take melatonin. I wouldn't do it if you're not a normal melatonin user, but I take melatonin the night before just to let myself relax, because otherwise I'll be up all night with thoughts spinning and, oh, do I have this ready? Did I forget about this? Did I forget about that? So whatever it takes for you to just relax and go to bed early, because the next day is going to be hot, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be hard. Okay, so let's talk about what to actually carry. This is a picture of me. This is the bike I rode my very first year. It's an upright gravel bike. I think it's kind of fun, but that bike weighs like 50 pounds. I'll be on a much lighter gravel bike this year. But any bike you want to ride will work out as long as your tires are set up properly. And we talked about that last time. So what to carry? So you're going to want all of your nutrition on you. We do have an aid station, but I never trust aid stations, simply because you never know what's going to be there or what is not going to be there. They recommend to aim for 150 to 180 calories per hour, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's real food or gels or a mixture of the two. You want it to be a mix of both carbs and electrolytes in there, and vary what you're eating. And then I would, recommend don't let yourself get into a calorie deficit. Make sure you're eating. One thing I'll do is, if folks use a bike computer, I have it set up to remind me to eat every 20 minutes. Literally a reminder comes up that I have to go in and hit dismiss, but I don't let myself hit dismiss until I've eaten something. And you just set up those reminders within the element, or within your device's settings. It's pretty easy to do, and I can go into specifics on that if need be. Hydration. Sean mentioned this, but it is going to be hot. We are going to be exposed. So as much water as you can carry, I'd recommend. So at least 2 bottles. Definitely a hydration pack if you're able to. And what I do is I do the hydration pack on my back with water. I'll have 2 liters on my back, and then excuse me, I'll have 2 bottles with electrolytes in it. I will also take extra electrolyte powder with me in Ziploc bags, so that way at the aid station, I can fill those bottles back up and have electrolytes. And my goal is when I get to that aid station is to have my bottles be empty or close to empty. I've never had any issue with Unbound running out of water, especially with where we'll be at Americus. It's at a city park, and so they have a water hookup, which is really nice. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments in there about somebody not going to the expo with their wallet. You'll be able to get a ton of bike swag at the expo, more than you ever thought possible. And then within your repair kit, we're going to talk more about this in just a second, but don't forget sunscreen and chapstick. The wind is going to just rip that moisture right out of your body. So chapstick is a big thing. Sunscreen. If you wear glasses or sunglasses, which most of us will be, bringing a glass cleaner cloth can be really helpful. And then obviously your repair kit. And so I think my next slide is all about the repair kit. Yes. So repair essentials. Hopefully you've already started packing this and are taking it on your rides right now. You know, for me, my event day prep doesn't look that different than the prep that I do for a regular ride. And I've got all the stuff already on me. So I kind of bucketed this into buckets, I guess. So you're going to want your flat repair supplies. So even if you're running tubeless, I saw some discussion in the Facebook group, you're going to want a spare tube or 2. God forbid something goes wrong and you don't have a tube on you, you're going to want to put a tube in your bike. You're going to want a tire boot. If you're not familiar with that, basically, they make them specifically, or you can use a dollar bill, you can use a wrapper. It's in case you get like a sidewall tear in the side of your tire that you can't plug up with a little piece of the bacon strip or the Dynaplug. You're going to want Dynaplugs. I already mentioned that. So those are, if folks don't know what that is, it's what you would plug your tubeless tire with to prevent the sealant from coming out. Sometimes also referred to as bacon strips. It's not actually bacon, they just look like little bacon strips. You're going to want patches, especially if you're running tubes. If you're running tubeless, it's not quite as important, but you'll want patches, tire levers, and a pump or a CO2 inflator. I actually recommend carrying both because sometimes your CO2 just isn't working, or you just need a small little top off and it doesn't make sense to use an entire cartridge. And then multiple CO2 cartridges. Remember that you can't fly with CO2 cartridges. So if you're flying into town, you'll want to buy a couple at the bike shop in town, and they've got literally boxes of them available. So I would recommend carrying a small bottle of lube, especially if we're going north. Because we are going north, it tends to be drier up there. And so if you notice your chain squeaking or making a noise, dropping a few drops of lube on there when you're stopped can be really helpful. Of course, you're going to want a multi-tool. Make sure you're familiar with your multi-tool and that it's a bike multi-tool. I just learned this, but they make multi-tools that don't have the right size little bits on there for bikes. So make sure that you're using a bike specific multi-tool because that would not be good. I recommend carrying spare or zip ties and a couple of spare bolts. Yeah, Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment about the multi-tool real quick. When I was doing BWR last year, one of my water bottle cages came loose, and I have a nice, beautiful cycling multi-tool, except it was too wide and wouldn't turn in the narrow space of a water bottle cage. So I ended up getting a second multi-tool that's very narrow and can really get into tight spaces. So I recommend making sure you can actually get into where you might need to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. And just before the ride, check all your bolts, make sure all your bolts are tight. Any preparation you do now and before the ride is one less thing that can go wrong during the ride. You know, zip ties can fix almost anything, spare bolts, especially if you're riding with cleats. I always hear horror stories of people's bolts falling out of their cleats. And actually, this happened to me 2 years ago. I tried to take a random bolt off of my bike and put it in there, and it had a rounded head instead of a flat head. And it made it so I couldn't clip in the rest of the day. So carry spare cleat bolts if you're riding with cleats. Just, you know, put them into a little baggie and put them into your kit. I always recommend extra snacks in your repair kit. Super important there, because inevitably you're going to get a flat tire and then you're going to be bonking and then you can't find your snacks. And so when you go and say, find your CO2, you found an extra snack as well. I like to put some painkiller in my kit as well, just ibuprofen or Tylenol, whatever works for you. You know, if not for you, then for somebody else, because it always comes in handy. And then, like I mentioned, sunscreen and chapstick. I'm going to come back to this slide. We talked about this last time, but this is actually, I'm not going to come back to it. We're just going to do it now. This is what my setup looks like. I have my repair kit up here in this brown bag. This black bag is my feed bag, and that's where I keep my nutrition that I want to eat as I go. I make like, I call it my magic trail mix, and it's just like, it's regular old trail mix, but then I put beef jerky in there. I put CBD gummies in there, and I put gummy bears, and I put peanut butter M&Ms. So it's just kind of a smorgasbord that I can literally just reach in every 20 minutes, if not sooner, and just grab something. And it's a mixture of salty and sweet and protein, and keeps me going. In addition to that, I will have gels, I will have chews, I will have all sorts of good stuff on me, but I try and keep it super accessible. I've got my 2 bottles here. I ride an extra small frame, and so 2 bottles don't fit where they're normally supposed to. And so I have one up here. You can see I also have a hydration pack on, and I keep extra nutrition in my hydration pack. I've got my phone mount right there, and then I have my computer mount as well. And so that's what my setup looks like. I used to ride with a saddlebag, but I found that I was able to carry everything in the front, which just kept my weight down just a little bit. Any questions about that? I know there were some questions last time about finding these tires, the 700 by 42, and they don't actually make them anymore. They make the 700 by 38. So if you're looking for the Terreno Dry, which is a great tire, they don't make it in the 42. It's actually only in the 38. Okay, so let's talk about what happens when things go wrong. Let's say you get a flat tire, or you drop your chain. You know, pull off to the side of the road when it's safe, and take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. You know, even if you crash, just, you know, sit down, take a deep breath, evaluate, you know, like any broken bones. No, okay, let's regroup. It's going to be okay. I always recommend eating a quick snack before you try and attack any repairs. It's just gonna, you know, you're gonna need to eat anyway. Might as well eat that snack as you figure out what your repair plan is. I also recommend moving to the shade. This might require walking a little bit, but it'll help. There's not a whole lot of shade out there. So if you could find it, or, you know, let's say you've got a squeak on your bike that you want to investigate, pull off into the shade to make that repair. I promise you it'll make a big difference on the day of. And then evaluate the situation. You know, can I continue to ride and fix this later at the aid station? You know, that's maybe your best bet, to not take up a ton of time. And sometimes there are mechanics at the aid stations. I don't know if there will be for us. I know on the 100 and the 200, they have neutral support. But typically there is somebody there. There's usually a pump, there's usually a repair stand. So if it's something that can wait to be fixed at the aid station, that's always a good option. You know, option B, can I or somebody else, like, is this a repairable thing? Maybe it's a flat tire and you're trying to fix it and really struggling. You know, if you look desperate on the side of the road, people are generally pretty nice and will ask, hey, do you have everything you need? Hey, can I help you out at all? And if they're asking, it's because they genuinely want to help. So I would encourage you, you know, if you are struggling, say, yes, I could really use your help with this. Or, yeah, I can't get my tire off the rim, something like that. And folks will stop and they'll help you. Or, you know, worst case scenario, you know, maybe you had a catastrophic failure of your bike. Do you need to to call it and say that's the end of your ride. But ideally, it's going to be either situation A or situation B, and somebody will be able to help you, or you'll be able to self-rescue. You know, if it comes to it, we do want you to have an emergency contact out there, but as we learned, it sounds like the Jeep Club will be out there. But those can take a long time to get to you. So if you're able to fix it and keep riding, you'll probably finish before the Jeep Club picks you up, because it can take a while to get out there and they might have to prioritize other people. Does anybody have questions about this? Okay, you're going to be fine. Your bike is going to be in tip-top shape. It's going to be perfect. And you're not going to have anything go wrong, is what we're hoping for. Okay, so I'm going to go through this real quickly. It's similar to last time, but a couple small changes in there. I'm going to go over this again because I think it's really important. You have a million elements of the day under your control, and we still have 3 weeks left to get all of this stuff dialed in. It's not too late. You know, your bike fit and your setup. Hopefully you've been riding. You know if there's something that's uncomfortable on your bike or causing you neck pain or numb feet. Now is the time to get that fixed before the ride. Tire pressure. Now is the time to dial that in as well. You can also dial this in when we get to Emporia and you've had a chance to ride on the gravel a little bit. This one's not quite as important, but just to have a general sense of what you want your tire pressure at. You know, mechanical, nutrition, hydration, all of that stuff. Figure out what works with your body. Figure out what goes in your kit. Where does it all get packed on your bike and in your hydration pack or whatever you're carrying? SRAM definitely does have a PSI calculator. Silka does, if you just Google it. I will say for folks in bigger bodies, sometimes the tire pressures can be a little bit not as accurate. So feel free to reach out if you're unsure, or maybe the weight chart doesn't go as high as you need it to go. Reach out to me and I'm happy to help you troubleshoot that. You know, your fitness and your endurance is, you still have time to be building that up. You know, I would say up until about a week before, you can still be training, and then you'll want to start tapering, you know, reducing your miles. But you do still want to get a ride or two in the week of Unbound, to make sure your body feels good and ready to go. And so then, you know, the things that are out of your control, the weather, the course conditions, the wind direction, as Sean mentioned, and how fast other people are going. But those things aren't going to matter if you've got everything else dialed. Well, they're still going to matter, but they're not going to matter nearly as much as all the other things because you've done all the preparation to get you there. You know, time in the saddle still matters. I would recommend, you know, if you're doing the 25 or the 50, sometime in the next couple weeks, try and ride close to that distance. You don't have to ride the entire distance. Sometimes it can be really cool to have event day be your actual longest ride. When I did my first century, I had never ridden 100 miles before, because who has time for that? Let's be honest. Like if you're not doing it on event day, like who really has time to go ride 100 miles? I know I don't. You know, training plans or coaches, it's a little late for that. I would say, you know, just your best bet is just get your miles in as you can. And make sure that your setup feels really comfortable. We are going to have all day to do the route, and so it really doesn't matter how slow you go. My one concern, and I'm going to get clarity on this from the organizers, is how late the aid station will be open. I know the finish line doesn't close until 3 in the morning, and so I'm confident that you all could walk that distance if you had to and get there by 3 in the morning, but I don't know how late the aid station will be open. And so if you are concerned about being super slow out there, make sure you're packing enough hydration and nutrition, just in case the aid station does close. I believe in Americus, there is a convenience store. It's not directly on the route, or at least it wasn't 3 years ago when we went through Americus. But you're not going to be stranded out there. We're not going that far out of Emporia. You know, if we were talking about the 200 or the XL, it would be a different story, but I wouldn't be coaching you on those because I've never ridden that far. So we're just going to say that. And then I will beat this horse until it is so dead. Hydration and nutrition need to be part of your training. So making sure that you are riding with the food that you're going to eat, making sure that you're practicing drinking on the bike, you're practicing eating on the bike, all of those things. My friend Meg Fisher, she'll be at Unbound. She's a world champion. She's a paracyclist. She's a Paralympian. Best advice she ever gave me was endurance riding is an all-day eating competition. Your body is just like a car. You need to fuel it appropriately. And to keep it going, you have to continue to give it fuel. So this is my hydration and nutrition plan. It's worked for me over many years and many, many rides. But like I mentioned, I'll have a hydration pack with 1.5 liters of water. It might be 2 liters, I don't know. I will have 2 bottles. One will have Scratch High Carb, which it's literally called Scratch High Carb, and it has, I think, 400 calories in it. So it's essentially nutrition that you can drink. And then I'll have 1 bottle with just electrolytes in it. And like I said, my goal is to empty those before I get to the aid station, and then I will refill them. I will take bags, they're labeled. One says high carb, one says electrolytes, and I'll refill those at the aid station. I have my Wahoo set up to remind me to eat every 100 calories. That is synced to my heart rate monitor. If you don't use a heart rate monitor, which is totally fine, you can just have it remind you like every 15 or 20 minutes to eat, to drink, whatever works for you. I also have it set to remind me every hour to smile, which is just like a little reminder that like I chose to do this. I might be suffering, but this is a choice that I made. I've heard of people saying like, you know, just little reminders to like have a good time or you're almost there, that sort of things. Yes, Tina, I do use the Scratch electrolytes as well. I really like Scratch. I'm not sponsored by them, but I really like them because it's really simple. When you look at the ingredient list, you can literally pronounce everything, and it's really easy on your belly. Because sometimes when you're got, a full day of eating not real food, your stomach can do funny things to you. And then here's all the snacks that I take. So I'll have Scratch Energy Chews. I'll have Goo Energy Gels. So, the little 100-calorie gel packs. I'll have CBD Chews. This is a personal thing that I like to do. I'll have some of that trail mix that I mentioned. I'll have an emergency peanut butter and jelly. I call it emergency because my goal is not to use that. If I need to, I will though, because sometimes you just get really hungry. So sometimes I'll even pack 2 PB&Js, depending on if it's super hot out, I'll pack 2. And then typically I'll also pack some rice cakes as well. But like I said, I don't trust aid stations. I have a lot of allergies, and so I never know what I'm going to be able to eat there. Matthew Fisher asked, is there a way to set up reminders like that with Strava or Ride with GPS if you are just using your phone? I don't know. Let me ask about that. I don't think so, but potentially. So if anybody knows, feel free to put that into the chat, but I'm not sure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about group riding events, oh my goodness, tips and techniques. So I stole this directly from Lifetime, from their Unbound. I thought these were really helpful tips. We'll just go through them and then I'll add some of my own. So number 1 is to stay relaxed while you're riding. I think a lot of us have a tendency to get really uptight. So just making sure to keep your shoulders relaxed, deep breaths, especially as you get into like the chunkier gravel or at the beginning of the day. If you feel yourself tensing up, just take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and that's going to help with your steering, with everything. Practice riding close to other people. Our shakeout ride will be a great opportunity for this. Especially for people going our pace, we're not going to be in super tight pace lines. People aren't going to be super competitive. And so you can kind of choose to ride as close to other people as you want. But especially when we start out, it's a fairly lengthy neutral rollout on pavement. And what I mean by neutral rollout is there's usually a car in the front limiting how fast we can go. So folks are just kind of rolling leisurely until we get onto the gravel. But that's a good opportunity to be close to other people and to just make sure that you're comfortable with that. Keep your eyes up and look for potential obstacles. Be ready to slow down for water crossings. I don't think we're going to have any water crossings, but if we do, it is perfectly okay to get off your bike and walk. I actually like to use the water crossings, especially if it's hot out, as an opportunity to cool down. I ride with a bandana around my neck, and I'll dip the bandana in the water and put it on. It's kind of built-in air conditioning. I've taken my jersey off and dunked it in the water. I have full on jumped in the water at water crossings if it's super hot. Or you can just ride straight through them, whatever works for you. But don't be afraid to get off and walk, and just make sure you get out of people's rides, or excuse me, get out of people's way. And then, plan for hills. You'll be able to see the hills in advance. And so making sure that you, get geared up appropriately. Now is a really great time to practice your shifting and know how your bike works for shifting up and down, to make sure that you're ready for the hills at Unbound. A couple other riding tips. Pace lining can be really helpful when battling headwinds, and that can be as simple as 2 or 3 people saying, hey, let's work together. I'll pull for a mile, and then somebody else can take the front and pull for a mile. And that's literally just kind of being lined up behind each other, and it'll make a huge difference. I find that people who go slower, myself included, we tend not to pace line, and we waste a lot of energy. So if you happen to run into other folks who are going around the same speed as you, even if you don't know them, it's okay to say, hey, you want to work together? I'll pull for a little bit. And then when you get tired, say, hey, can you pull for a little bit? And it really does make a big difference to have somebody blocking the wind in front of you. Stay to the right side of the road, especially if you're slower. Letting folks pass you on the left. I like to, if I see a hill coming up, position myself towards the right side, especially if I know that I'll potentially be walking. That lets the other folks go around you on the left, but this can be really, really important, especially if you are a slower person. It can be super stressful to be caught in the middle of the road and have people passing you on both sides. And so if you know that you are a slower rider, just stick to the right side of the road. You don't have to go off into the shoulder. You're allowed to pick the line that feels good for you, take up space. You have as much right to be out there as anybody else, but just make sure you're giving folks plenty of space to pass you on the left side. And just making sure that you're following all the rules of the road. The roads aren't closed. So we'll be sharing it with farm equipment, potentially with trucks, with other cars. Most of them do a pretty good job of giving us plenty of space, but just, this is their territory, this is their area, their homes, and so making sure that we're being respectful of that. Okay, oh, that's a great reminder from Doug that your phone can overheat in the sunlight. So be aware of the angle and shade your phone, or putting it into a pocket if you need to. So here's some additional resources. These are the same resources that I put up last time, but hopefully you all are feeling pretty confident. It's just a bike ride. I believe in all of you. And if you're already putting in this time, it's a good indicator that you're going to do great. If you haven't yet, I encourage you to watch this film. It's called Journey to Unbound. It is about me. I'm not encouraging you to watch it because it's about me, but it'll give you a good idea of what Unbound is like on the ground. You'll see that I am really stressed out in this film about the time cutoff. As we learned, we don't have a time cutoff. Again, I will get clarity on the aid stations and how late they're open, but we don't have a time cutoff as long as you make it in by 3 in the morning. So I guess technically we do, but that gives you almost 18 hours to do 50 or 25 miles. So your homework before we meet in Unbound is to read the Unbound guide when it comes out. There is so much great information in there, and it's basically going to repeat all the things that I've talked about. You want to download the route to your device. And I will typically double check this a couple times just to make sure, because nothing's worse than getting caught out there and like, oh my God, I don't have the route. Practice changing your tires and or fixing a flat. It's not too late to learn this. You can always watch YouTube videos, but nothing substitutes for the real thing. And then just keep riding. Every mile you get in now before Unbound is going to help with the actual ride. And I believe that is it. And so now we've just got lots of time for questions. So if folks want to come off mute, you're more than welcome to. If you're feeling good about things, feel free to jump off. But I appreciate you all signing up for this. I did not end up making any swag. I was going to, and then got overwhelmed with other things. So hopefully we will have swag for next year. Actually, we will have stickers. If you come to the All Bodies and Bikes booth, you can definitely get stickers, and I will bring them to the shakeout ride and to the happy hour as well. But I was going to make hats or shirts and just didn't end up doing it. So questions, comments, life advice? Are people feeling generally pretty good? Good. Good. Okay. I'm not hearing anything, which I think means I did my job. Okay, you all know how to get in touch with me. Feel free to email me, feel free to Instagram me, use the Facebook group as you continue to prepare for this, and enjoy the rest of your night. And I can definitely send you those messages. And there's a question from Charles about how chunky is the gravel north? The further north you go, the chunkier it gets. We won't be going that far north, and so it's a little bit chunky, but it's the pictures they've been showing, I don't even know if we go on those roads. So they hype it up quite a bit, and I remember when I rode the 50 going north last time, I remember thinking that wasn't that bad. And so most of the hype that they're doing is for those folks doing the 100 and the 200 mile. So, what is my cramping remedy? Pickle juice. If you know that you're prone to cramps, making sure that you're upping your magnesium levels, making sure that you're really hydrated and electrolytes. And then I will take, they make little bottles of pickle juice. They sell them at Walmart. That is that. So, let's see. I saw another one. Is there that big hill at the end when arriving to Emporia? Yes, there is one last big hill. It's when you get onto the Emporia State University campus. It's short, but it's steep, and there's usually a lot of people there cheering, which can be both a really good thing or a bad thing because you're exhausted, and all you want to do is get off and walk, which is totally fine. But I found myself with everybody watching, just kind of grinding it out. And last time I was there, they had fireball shots at the top, which was kind of fun. So,
Hey, Marley.
yeah, what's up, Carla?
This is Carla. Yeah. You said something about the shakeout ride at 1:30, but then you said something about a shakeout ride, and maybe I missed it because I've dropped a couple of times here. But did you say something about a shakeout ride for those that maybe don't want a lot of conversation or something like that? You were
Yes.
going to say that something else?
Yes. And so there's two shakeout rides that I would recommend for folks. You definitely don't need to do both because that's a lot of riding beforehand. But there'll be one on Friday morning at 8 a.m., like before all the craziness starts. And that'll be an all bodies on bikes kind of sensory friendly ride where we won't have a megaphone. The expectation, we're not going to have flashing lights or blinking lights. It's really an opportunity just to go ride in a group without the expectation of like making new friends or talking to other people, because I know that can be really overwhelming for a lot of folks. So that'll be Friday morning at 8 a.m. and that would be an appropriate pace group for this group, and that'll be around 10 miles as well. And then later in the afternoon at 1:30 is when the Wheels of Welcome shakeout ride will happen. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense, and I really appreciate that. My nervousness a lot is about I live out in the country and I don't ride with a lot of people, and I'm nervous about I don't want to, be a problem for people or run into somebody or something like that, especially that start.
Yep.
That is a little nerve wracking. I've ridden 100-mile a century ride, but we were pretty spread out and you could get toward the back and, let the fast ones go. So it's probably what I'll do. But anyway, it's probably the same kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
I don't
Yep.
know how many people do you think are in the 50 mile? Do you know?
There's about 1,300.
Holy moly.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a lot of us.
Okay.
But I would
Perfect.
say, if you're feeling nervous, lining up towards the back is a totally fine thing to do. The front will definitely be more chaotic. There'll be folks, going hard out there, because they did turn it into a race this year. There will be people trying to go fast and compete. And so if you're not one of those people, lining up, towards the middle, towards the back of the pack is a good thing to do. So,
Thank you.
of course. One other thing, and I'm hesitant to tell you guys this because I want you to feel confident, but if you're feeling not very confident about the 50, if you're like, oh, this is a real stretch for me, download both the 25 and the 50-mile routes. That way, you know, if you get out there on the day of and it's just not happening, you can shorten it and you can do the 25 mile if you're signed up for the 50. But I'm confident in all of you and I know that you can do it. Just keep eating, just keep drinking, and just keep turning your pedals. Yeah, Michelle, you're right. Holy cow, 1,300 people is a lot. Yeah, and Ryan added a good thing. The 100 and the 200 will use the 25 and the 50 as shakeout, as practice rides. And so, yeah, our routes tend to be in the best shape. One other kind of fun thing, and I don't know if it'll happen this year, but our courses will often overlap with the end of the 100 and the 200 mile. And so you will often have people who are doing the 100 and the 200 mile finishing around the same time as us, especially the faster folks. So that can be a really fun opportunity to see other people, to see how fast other folks are capable of going. I'm always blown away by like, how in the world can people ride their bikes this fast? But also if and when that does happen, just stick to the right side of the road. You know, there's no single track, there's no like weird little pinch points. And so you won't have to worry about people sneaking past you, and they'll give you plenty of space to pass you. Can you do the 50 if you are in the 25? I mean, nobody's going to stop you. If you know that that's what you want to do, I might email Unbound and see if there's a way you can switch. It might be too late, but if you know that, but yeah, nobody's going to stop you. Don't tell them I told you you could do it. But sure, yeah. So thank you so much, Denise. Yeah, if you've done 50 miles on Swift and road, you can 100% do 50 miles on gravel. It is going to feel harder. Gravel is definitely a little bit harder, but especially if you have the mental fortitude to do 50 miles inside on a trainer on Swift, you can totally make it through a 50-mile gravel ride. So yeah, I would say just keep your eye out for the course release, keep your eye out for the rider guide. And once all that stuff is finalized, I will send out one additional email with a reminder of our shakeout ride time, and that'll be a part of the official program as well. So thank you all so much. Continue to use that Facebook group, and we'll see you in a couple of short weeks in Emporia. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Marley.